let's talk about the saga of Joe Biden. So over the past year, over the past few months, can you just rewind? Where have you maybe tell the story of Joe Biden as you see from the election perspective?
Yeah. So about a year ago, I I'm looking at the polling, and first of all, I have eyes, right, and ears. So whenever I see Biden, I'm like, this is a disaster. And then I go and talk to real people, and when I say real people, I mean not in politics. That's not their job, right? Because people involved in politics or media have a certain perspective, and it's colored by all of the exchanges in mainstream media, social media, etc. Real people aren't on Twitter having political fights. They're not watching CNN religiously, etc. Whenever I was at a barbecue, you guys all Democrats in some barbecues? Yeah. What do you guys think of Joe Biden? Like almost in unison, too old. Every real person said too old. So I look at what real people are saying. That's why I thought Trump was going to win in 2016. I go in the middle of Ohio. I can't see a Hillary Clinton sign for hundreds of miles, right? There's Trump paraphernalia everywhere, right? So that's not end all be all. You could say it's anecdotal, but you begin to collect data points, right? But then the real data points are in polling. Okay, so now I'm looking at Biden polling. He's in the 30s. No incumbent in the 30s has ever come back to win. So I'm like, it's already over. Then all of a sudden, oh my God, Trump takes the lead with Latinos. It's double over. By the later in the process, Trump took the lead with young voters. I'm like, this is the most over election in history. A Democrat cannot win if they're not winning young voters. That's impossible. Trump's cutting into his lead with black voters. This thing is over, right? And I go tell people, and they're like, you're crazy. Why do they think I'm crazy? Because MSNBC is lying to them 24/7, telling them that Joe Biden created sliced bread and the wheel and fire. And my favorite talking point was he's a dynamo behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let me get this right. It's like an SNL skit, right? I'm like, so behind the scenes is like, all right, Saily, get me the memo on that, and we're okay. We're going to do this, and I'm in command of the material. Then he goes in front of the cameras. Anyways, why would any politician do that? Why would they be terrible in front of the camera and great off camera? That doesn't make any sense. But once you get people enough propaganda, and MSNBC created Blue MAGA, right? They'll believe anything. So they believe that Biden was dynamic and young and that he was the best possible candidate to beat Donald Trump, when in reality, he was about the only Democrat who couldn't beat Donald Trump. So, number one, I don't co-sign on a bullshit. I don't care which side you're on. Number two, as you heard earlier, I can't have Trump winning. It endangers the country. It endangers our Constitution, etc. So I'm going to do something about it. And so I start something called Operation Hope on the Young Turks. And we asked the audience, what should we do, right? So there's different projects in Operation Hope. But the first project that pops up is knock Biden out of the race. Okay. And so then I ask our paying members on TYT, I say, guys, you're going to vote, and then I'm going to do what you tell me to do. Mm-hmm. If you say, no, I like Biden, or I think Biden's the best candidate, or even if he isn't, we're not going to be able to win on this, so don't do it, right? Should I enter the primary against Biden? Okay. 76-24, go, enter, right? I'm a populist. You tell me to go. You're my paying members. You're my boss. I'm going to go. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I enter the primary. Now, I'm not born in the country, so people are going to freak out about that. I'm a talk show host. Like the establishment media despises me, right? So I'm not going to get any airtime. In fact, we consider hiring the top booking agent in New York. We talked to him, and he says, well, I'm actually in New York this week. And he says, I'm going to go talk to those guys, and I'll come back to you. And he was really decent, because normally, he charges a lot. Just take the money, right? And go, oh, yeah, I'll get you on. But he was a wonderful guy. He said, I talked to them. You're banned. So don't do it. Like, you're banned at CNN, you're banned at MSNBC, and I think you're banned on Fox News, but I'm not sure. Okay. So long odds, why do you do it? Because if you think we're going to crash into the iceberg, you might as well bum rush the captain's quarters, right? I'm lunging at the wheel. So what difference can I make? Well, I can make a difference by going on every show on planet Earth and going, he's too old. He's in the 30s. He has no chance of winning. No chance of winning. I go on Charlemagne's show, Breakfast Club, right? Charlemagne agrees. All of a sudden, we're having buzz. And then people go, oh, Charlemagne said he has no chance of winning. Then Charlemagne's on The Daily Show, talks to Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart does a segment. This is not necessarily causal, but buzz is building, right? So then Jon Stewart does a segment, if you remember, and people got super pissed at him. Too old, can't win. And all that buzz is building. Meanwhile, unrelated to us, David Axelrod and James Carville. And I'm like, guys, figure it out. Who does Axelrod speak for? The top advisor for Barack Obama. Who is James Carville the top advisor for? The Clintons. This is the Clintons and the Obamas sending their emissaries to say, we can read a poll. He's going to lose. Change direction. So when the debate happens, we laid the groundwork. If we hadn't laid the groundwork, debate would have been the first time that Blue MAGA would have thought, oh, maybe Biden can't win, right? But since all of us said it, and strange bedfellows, I loathe Nancy Pelosi, but she was on our side. I got a lot of issues with Bill Maher. He was on our side, right? I got a lot of issues with Axelrod and Carville, and they were on our side. So the people who believed in objective reality kind of independently made a plan. Let's show people objective reality. And we did, and we drove them out, and it made all the difference.
So you think he stepped down voluntarily, or was he forced out?
Both. So again, it depends on what you mean. So was he forced out? Of course he was forced out. You think he just woke up and he's like, oh yeah, you know what? Screw my legacy. I don't want to be a 2-term president. I'll just drop out for no reason. No, we forced him out. Of course we did, right? And when I say we, I had a tiny, tiny, tiny role. The people who had the major roles, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and all those folks. But even they were not the main driving force. The number one driving force were the donors. What is the source of power of Bernie or Massey? The people, right? What is the source of power for Biden? The donors. The donors made Biden. He is the donors' candidate. And the donors, that's why he told the donors, nothing will fundamentally change. That is, like, you can, if you say, Lex, no, Cenk, I think you're too extreme that Biden works for the donors 98%. I think he only works for them 80% or 55%. Fine, we could have that debate. But you can't argue that it isn't his source of power. And you can't argue it anymore, even if you were going to argue it earlier, because once the donors said, we're not giving you any more money, he didn't have any options. He couldn't go on. So, but was he forced out at like knife point or something? No. So was it voluntary? Yeah. Ultimately, if Biden decided to stay in, there was nothing we could do about it. And so he had to voluntarily make that decision, but he voluntarily made it because he had no choice left.
Yeah, I wish he stepped down voluntarily from a place of strength. So I think presidents, I think politicians in general, especially at the highest levels, want legacy. And to me, at least, one of the greatest things you could do is to walk away from at the top. I mean, George Washington, so walk away from power is, I think, universally respected, especially if you got a good speech to go with it and you do it really well. Not in some kind of cynical or calculated or some kind of transactional way, but just like as a great leader. And maybe be a little bit even more dramatic than you need to be in doing it. Yeah, I thought that would be a beautiful moment, and then launch some kind of democratic process for electing a different option.
Not only did I agree with you 100%, I reached one of his top advisors, one of the guys you see in the press all the time, as in his inner circle. I never said that before because we were in the middle of it, and I'm never going to betray anyone's confidence, and I'll never say who it was, okay? But he was gracious enough to meet with me as I was about to enter the primary. And look, it's smart too, because get information, intelligence, etc. Is this guy going to be trouble or not trouble, right? But at least he took the meeting. And the case I made is exactly the one you just said, Lex. I said, if he drops, this is about 10 months ago. I said, if he drops out now, they built statues of him, right? The Democrats, if you're a right winger, you hate him, I get it. But the Democrats would have said he beat Trump and protected democracy in 2020. And he steps down graciously now to make sure we beat Trump again in 2024. And he lets go of power voluntarily. He's going to be a hero, an absolute hero. But if he doesn't, you're going to force all of us to kick the living crap out of him and tell everybody he's an egomaniac, which he is. And he's doing this so that he could be, if you don't know Washington, in that bubble, if you're a one-term president, you're a loser. If you're a two-term president, you have a legacy and you're historic. He's running for one reason only. My legacy. I will be a two-term president. I will be considered historic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, brother, now you're going to be considered the villain of the story. You're handing it right back to Trump. You're not going to win. And look at the numbers. Any political professional knows you're not going to win. So you have hero or villain, and you get to choose. But if you think you're going to be a hero and beat Trump, that is not a choice you have. That is not going to happen. And they didn't believe us. But by the end, they did.